Hi, welcome to UCan2. I'm Dave Stradell, a member of Muskegon Community College's business faculty and program coordinator for marketing, management, and entrepreneurial studies. UCan2 is a campus-wide philosophy that encourages students of all ages, regardless of their major or area of interest, to consider business ownership as a career path. This program features discussions with area business owners and support organizations, which will highlight how they became entrepreneurs or support entrepreneurs, and talk about issues important to people starting out in business. Today we're speaking with Bernston, a counselor with SCORE. Hi Bernie, thanks for coming in to tell us about SCORE today.
Well, Dave, thanks for inviting me.
Tell us about your background, Bernie.
I was born on a farm in North Dakota, and I received my engineering degree, and then I went to work for General Electric. I was there for about 23 years, and they moved me all over the place. My wife and I moved from Indiana to Illinois to Los Angeles, back to Indiana, to Carmel, Indiana, and then I ended up in Holland, Michigan, and then jumped ship, joined another company over in Wisconsin, and I was there for about 17 years, and then I decided to retire, my wife and I, to Muskegon. So we love Muskegon. We think it's a great place to live, and so we're happy to be here.
Super. So you have quite an extensive business background.
Well, yes. I think I got to give a lot of credit to GE. It was a great training ground. And I was on what they called their technical marketing program. And they had people coming right out of college with engineering degrees, and instead of going into a pure engineering assignment, I was more in the technical marketing side of the GE business. So yes, it was good.
Well, Bernie, tell us about SCORE. What is it?
Well, SCORE is a group of volunteers. We don't get paid, so we all want to do what we're doing. And we're kind of under the umbrella of the Small Business Administration. And so we have about 360 some chapters across the United States. And we have some 13,000 counselors, just like I am. And so it's an old, SCORE is an old acronym for Service Corps of Retired Executives. But now it's really known as Counselors to Small Businesses.
What are the backgrounds of some of the other SCORE members? Are they similarly experienced like yourself?
No, I think, well, maybe similar, but really a diverse group. We have a couple of ex-bankers who are counselors. And so if we have a client come in, as an example, and they need maybe apply for a loan, or they're doing something like that, that's specifically related to the banking business, then we refer them to those banking counselors. We have another counselor who spent some 40 years in a large industrial manufacturing company. He lived in England and Illinois and various places running large manufacturing operations. We have another counselor that started his own CPA firm, so he has obviously a strong accounting background. And we have people that have been in the insurance business, in the administration. We have another one of our counselors who had his own consulting firm. So, I mean, really a varied background.
So you have counselors basically in just about every area of business.
Yeah, we really do. We have a young woman who is also a counselor for us, and she has started several little businesses herself, and her expertise is really in the in QuickBooks and helping people understand how to use the computer to run your business.
Okay. Well, let's talk about if I'm a person who wants to start a small business, how can SCORE help me?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, I think first of all, we go through a little training program, all SCORE counselors, and what we try to do is when the client comes in to see us, we try to stop making a snap judgment. You know, that's easy to do sometimes, and so we try not to do that, and then we listen. What is it that the client is thinking about in terms of starting their business, and do they have that passion, that drive. You know, so we're trying to ask a lot of questions. Why are you doing this, and why do you think your business idea would be better than what somebody else is doing already? You know, and then we kind of make an assessment. What does this client need to go to the next step? And, you know, and then we talk about some tools. And I don't think I've ever been in a counseling session where I didn't end up bringing up cash flow. Do you understand cash flow? And we're not trying to make them, you know, any of the clients into accounting experts, but I really think many businesses kind of miss the boat by not understanding the basics of cash flow. And we have some tools, you know, a little spreadsheet, Excel spreadsheet. I mean, it's pretty easy and straightforward, but understand what's your revenue going to be, what are your costs going to be, and can you make any money at this business before you know, squander your 401 or whatever.
Can you give me some examples? I know you can't mention names, but can you give me some examples of the types of companies that you've helped recently?
Well, sure. And you mentioned we can't give out names. We do sign a confidentiality form.
Okay.
So when a client comes in, we do make a strong commitment that, you know, that we won't divulge any of this information to anyone else. But yes, I had a couple come in, and they were interested in opening a bookstore. And so we had a serious discussion about, you know, kind of location. Why would somebody patronize this bookstore versus any other bookstore? What unique kind of niche are you going to, have in this business? So, we had a really good discussion, and then they did open up this bookstore.
Excellent.
Okay. I have another client that came in that was going to open up a restaurant. It's kind of similar. Why would somebody come to your restaurant? Have you looked at the, in this case, they were thinking of buying a restaurant, so a little bit different. But again, there we have clients come in that are thinking of acquiring an existing business. So there we say, well, let's take a look at the financials, the prior 3 years financials. And we'll sit down and with them, or maybe encourage them to at least look at the financials. And sometimes, we get clients in and we don't hear much back. They maybe come in a couple, 3 times, and we don't hear from them. And then all of a sudden we read in the paper that this business is open. So that's kind of gratifying. But a lot of the other counselors, there's many stories of we have about 25 counselors in the Muskegon area. I think maybe I'll talk about it later, but Muskegon includes Grand Haven and Whitehall and Newaygo. And one of our counselors has helped a company start a portable dock business. That's up in the Newaygo area. It's just an amazing story, really. But there's many examples of companies that come in, they talk to us, and then maybe they use that information to either launch their business, and then sometimes not launch their business. I know that sounds strange, but maybe once they go through the numbers, maybe it doesn't make sense. So that's kind of what we're trying to do with clients.
Okay. If I come in, am I just allowed one meeting, and will it cost me anything? How does that work?
We do not charge anything, and generally the meetings are at the various chambers of commerce, whether it's in Grand Haven, Muskegon, or in Whitehall. In the case of Newaygo, it's up at the Stream in Newaygo. That's a fantastic facility.
It is.
Really.
Yes.
Really a nice facility. And then we generally talk to them about some action item that they need to try to deal with. And then we say, please, we invite them almost every time, please come back and see us if they think we've provided any value. And then again, there's no cost. I know one of our SCORE counselors, I bet he saw his client, I bet 20 times.
Okay.
But most of the time it's maybe 2 or 3 times, but it depends.
So I can come back as many times as I want, as long as it's beneficial and you see progress happening.
Right.
Okay.
I think the key is, like any business, are we providing some value? And then you're absolutely invited to come back. no limit.
Excellent.
All right.
Let's take a stand from a business that's already in existence. Can I use SCORE as well?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. No, I think sometimes I think that's maybe we can provide the most value, because many of us were in business for like 40 years. I mean, hopefully we learned something. and our businesses in general that we worked with were successful.
Mm-hmm.
So certainly we made mistakes along the way, but we also did some things right. And we're trying to then help the client see what's going on in their business. I mean, I worked with a company not too long ago that in a little manufacturing business here in the area, mm-hmm. and they had maybe 12 employees. Excuse me, and they really needed to take a look at their business, because in today's economy, what's happened in many cases is that they've had some key customers. And now those customers are still their customers, but they're buying a lot less than they did
mm-hmm.
before.
Mm-hmm.
And in many cases, they haven't adjusted their operation. So, I mean, it's really pretty straightforward, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you need to then say, okay, how can I generate more revenue? How can I get new customers, new markets, all that kind of thing? And then the second thing is, what can I do about my costs?
Mm-hmm.
And many times, things have been going pretty well over many years sometimes, but they haven't really dealt with it. So in the case of that manufacturing company, I think that was our contribution, was to get them to really look at the reality check. What do we need to do to change the way we're doing business?
Maybe help them make some difficult decisions in terms of personnel, perhaps, or
exactly.
investments.
And sometimes, I mean, we've found companies that had too many relatives working in their company. I mean, they were a good place to work. They provided a nice paycheck for their
mm-hmm.
entire family.
Mm-hmm.
But if they continued to do that, they were going to go out of business.
Okay. Does SCORE team with other organizations in the community?
Oh, for sure. Well, MCC. Muskegon Community College, I think, just a little plug for them. I think they really do a nice job for our community. There's no doubt about it.
Thank you.
So we have a class, for example, out here at the community college. Our next one starts on, just a little plug, it's
Sure.
March 29th,
Mm-hmm.
and it's in the evening, so if you have a job, you can come and, to this class. It's for 5 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
It's part of the business certificate. It's a business certificate class. It's part of continuing education.
Mm-hmm.
So, yes, we work with all the people right here at MCC. And then I'd really be remiss if I didn't mention the Chambers of Commerce. I think Cindy Larson and her gang down in here in Muskegon, I mean, they are partners. They set up our appointments. They provide a little room for us to meet in. And that's true down in Grand Haven and in Whitehall. So Chambers of Commerce come to mind, as well as up in Newaygo, the Newaygo County Economic Development Group.
Okay.
And then like another group would be, I think you've had an interview with Orville Crane some time ago.
Mm-hmm.
So the Inventors Network. So we have a client that comes in and they have some invention, and they said, well, should I see a patent attorney or whatever? That may be what they'll do later.
Mm-hmm.
But we say, why don't you go talk to the people at the Inventors Network? Okay. And then we partner with the Small Business Technology Development Center. Mm-hmm. They have an office right down at the the Alternative Energy Center here mm-hmm. in Muskegon. And so we work with them. So sometimes a client that comes to see us should also go see them, and vice versa.
How do I get a hold of SCORE if I want to get some assistance?
That's pretty easy. I mean, frankly, it's just to call the Chambers of Commerce.
Okay.
And that would be in Whitehall, Chamber of Commerce, Muskegon Chamber of Commerce, Grand Haven Chamber of Commerce, and up at the Newaygo Economic Development at the Stream. Mm-hmm. And so it's just a matter of getting their telephone numbers. The one that, of course, I've memorized is Muskegon, because that's where my little office where I work out of, and the counselors that I work with. And that's just calling 231-722-3751.
You mentioned before that you usually like to meet at chambers. Will you meet at client sites?
We mostly meet at client sites when we're doing what I'd call mentoring,
Okay.
and it's an existing business.
Ah, all right.
Okay, and so we'll put together, we'll visit the client, see what their needs are, and if they're interested, we'll set up a little team. And I was out at the client where I was kind of the marketing guy, and but then we had our banker. I mentioned that we have a banker counselor was with us, and then another counselor who basically was in strategic planning and that kind of thing. So then we generally meet at the client's factory or office or whatever. The other meetings are generally in our offices at the different chambers.
Bernie, with the recession these days, hopefully we're coming to the tail end of it, but we're still somewhat in a down economy. What advice might you have for an existing business owner who's perhaps struggling?
Well, I think, I don't think you should give up. I mean, I really think here in the Muskegon area, what we need more than ever is to have our existing companies survive, and I think there's help out there to maybe help them. And they are trying sometimes to do it alone. And that's kind of a broken record, I think, with us. Don't try to do it alone. It doesn't mean you need to come to SCORE, but you can go to somebody else who's in business and get some help. But I think you've got to, nowadays, you've got to look at how you market your products and your service. It's going to be different than it was. I don't think there's any doubt about that. And then I think you just got to be tough on costs. And I think the owner of a company, the top person, has to understand their costs. And I think there was times in the past when you didn't need to do that.
Okay.
So again, we get into our good old cash flow. Understand that cash flow, make it kind of a living document that you come to work and you say, what are my sales? What are my costs? I mean, don't get obsessed with it necessarily, but I think it's really important.
And SCORE may not be a bad place for those people to start because you are confidential and you are objective,
right,
and you can help those business leaders through some difficult decisions.
Well, I think we can. We're kind of, coming to see your, I hate my gray hair, but you come in to see your grandfather, and I mean, hopefully we'll be really, I think we are sincere. We want to help. That's why we do this. I mean, we don't get paid, so, and just come in and kick your idea around with us, and maybe you'll leave and say, well, they didn't help me that much. I mean, that can happen, but I don't think you lose anything. It doesn't cost you, it costs you an hour of time, let's say, but come in and see us, and hopefully we can do some good.
Any advice for people who are thinking about starting a business?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think first of all, you have to have a legitimate idea that you've thought about, and that, you have to have a passion for it, and you've got to be willing to work hard. We've had clients come in, actually, who say, I don't like my boss, and I don't like working so hard, and I want to start my own business. And we sit down and we listen to them, but we say, boy, starting your own business is a lot of hard work, and so you've got to love it. I mean, I think in my own personal experience, I loved working. I mean, it wasn't like I hated going to work every day. It was a good thing, So I think if you're starting your own business, have a passion for it. Be willing to work hard, and then, do a little reality check. Does the market, let's say it's here in the Muskegon area, is there really a market for this product or service that you're thinking about? And what's the competition? We have a lot of clients that come in, let's say it's a lawn care business, which is a great business, no problem. But you got to understand there's already several companies providing that service. So what are you going to do that's different, better? So it's kind of, I think we sit down and really talk to them about, have you thought this through?
Any last thoughts, Bernie?
I think you have to realize that if you're starting your own business, you have to remember you need a passion for it. You need to realize you're going to have to work really hard at doing it. But just remember that you can too.